Blue Lock just dropped my favorite chapter in a while. As in this chapter, we had so much happening and saw Blue Lock going absolutely wild on the pitch. But to know more, you will have to wait. But trust me, there is a ton more stuff, so get ready. Alright, so starting off this chapter, also called Double Wing, we first head right into a football lecture, as the text explains that in soccer, cutting inside is a dribbling technique for sharply moving towards the center of the field. It forms the crux of various attack plays, and it's typical for a player to have 2 or 3 variations at their disposal. However, not everyone is average, as we learn that Teddy has 7 variations, and this powerful weapon elevated him to join the new generation World 11. Now, that last line I thought was pretty interesting because it makes me wonder if there is a criterion when joining the new Gen 11 that you have to have your own unique weapon. After that, we move to the coach bench where we see Ego, and he looks absolutely taken aback by Teddy's play, as he then asks Fox how he managed to create a monster like that. Fox, ugly as he ever is, starts to smile and tells Ego that it was easy. We see the England players going to celebrate, while Fox tells Ego that youngsters are still nobodies. They're blank white canvases filled with hope. Fox continues and explains that you just need to give them dreams and joy before they start to think for themselves, and then you can totally control them, ending it by explaining that they then become his puppets. Now, while that sounds super creepy and all of that, Fox said that you need to give the players dreams and joy. However, isn't that a big contradiction, since Teddy looks miserable and depressed all of the time? After that, we move back to Ego, who can be seen pushing up his glasses while telling Fox that his thinking is as scummy as always, asking him if that isn't why he was unable to beat France. This really seems to leave Fox speechless before he hits Ego back by telling him that he also lost to France. With that, they then just start to throw insults at each other, and we can see Sendu just side-eyeing them, while Henri, in her brain, is wondering if they aren't supposed to be adults. After some time, they seem to be decently finished, as Fox has an annoyed facial expression, while telling Ego that the two of them never matched head-to-head on anything. Ego just looks calm while telling Fox that they are oil and water, and that it's been that way since he was an active player, and that Fox was his former coach. And by that line, I'm just in pure shock. I mean, now we just need to have more backstory between the two, since Ego just confirmed that Fox was his former coach, and he also said that they have always not been able to see eye to eye, even when Fox was his coach. Not going to stay on that for too long, but that is like actually mind-blowing, and we now have more Ego lore, which I love. Anyway, after that, we move to the boy Isagi, who has the ball in his hand while thinking that England's players are egoless. He looks over at Teddy and the others, as he thinks that he doesn't think anybody in Blue Lock has lacked an ego, and he can't imagine someone like that could survive in the world of competition. But even with all of that in mind, England, they are still so strong, and his experience and thinking still can't make sense of them. Isagi continues as he says that he has made it this far by devouring his opponent's egos, so he doesn't know how to devour someone without an ego. He looks intense as he still stares at Teddy, and wonders to himself how he is supposed to attack. How does he break through? He tells himself to think over and over again, as after all they must have a weakness, and that single missing piece is what he desperately needs to find, the missing piece of his shining rebellion, which actually sounds so dope. After that, we see that the match has restarted, and Isagi starts it off by passing the ball to Yukimiya, who looks super ready. He smirks, and says that he is about to pry open the door and calls the England players puppets. But before we can see any of that, we move 55 days earlier to Yukimiya's special training. Ego had told him in his letter to let Yaijutsu teach him how to use stillness and movement. The text then tells us that Yaijutsu is a Japanese technique for rapidly drawing a sheathed katana and slashing. If he were to apply that concept to his dribbling, it would mean exploding into movement from stillness. He needs to strengthen his muscles and senses. With that, we see him with the ball when he suddenly stops, before then going rapidly fast as the player, as he thinks that he has to become a stop-and-go specialist, which honestly is so sick. Also, this panel as well just goes so hard as we see Yukimiya's, I guess, shadow just slashing with the katana. But honestly, I really like how all of Ego's training was super carefully picked for all of the players. It really makes it so much more special. Anyway, while Yukimiya is going with the ball, out of nowhere one of the England players says that they have done their research, and he admits that Yukimiya is bad news one-on-one, and because of that, he explains that they will face him 1-on-3, which should be such an ego boost for Yukimiya, since they need 3 players to contain him. And it does seem like it's what's happening as Yukimiya starts to smile while saying that he is so popular, but since 3 of them are here, it means that the other side is wide open. With that, he somehow manages to get the ball past all 3 of them and onto the other side. Here on the other side, we see Zantetsu getting ready as he pushes up his glasses and says the usual sprinting stuff. We then also see a quick flashback to his training where Ego told him that he had to master the technique of starting the 100-meter dash, telling him to hone the explosive power of his initial velocity to control the space around him. With that, the real-time Zantetsu then says, "Boom," as he then flies away with insane speed while thinking that he needs to become the hunter of the right side. And guys, are you seeing this as well? Like, Zantetsu is so insanely fast and he looks so cool. He manages to make contact with the ball. However, he does have one of the England players in front of him, so he also does a cut to the side before his eyes start to flare up with aura as he declares that he is a hunter, and that nickname has to get the recognition that it deserves, as it sounds sick. Anyway, with that, we see him getting a clear angle and shooting the ball right at the goal. Now Zantetsu getting the first goal for Blue Lock would be a masterpiece, and I would want nothing more. But sadly, we see the England goalkeeper, who is called Rook. He jumps and manages to catch the ball in the last second, which genuinely made me so sad. But even then, this play had a ton of impact as we move to Isagi, who in his head thinks that they can do this. He explains that he stopped it, but they are breaking their 0-1 wall. This attack pattern is effective, just like Ego had planned. That's why Ego is such a goat as well. But yeah, they have realized that this double wing formation works, and Yukimiya and Zantetsu also look pumped up by it, as Zantetsu even screams out, "Double glasses, repeat again," to you, which I don't know what he was trying to say, but sure, you go. Anyway, we then move to Rookie, who throws the ball out and tells them to go for a counter. The ball lands towards Agi, who traps it flawlessly. We see two of the England players saying their usual 1 to infinity slogan, but just then, we see a feather calling them dumbasses. We see that it's, of course, Karasu, who has smashed into Agi from the back. He tells Agi they're going to hang out here, get the ball, and pass to either side, and then charge up to the goal again. He starts to look really smug, while telling Agi that his script is too obvious, but that it's not going to fly, which we see is true as both Ryo and Hiyori are blocking off Agi's passing ways. Agi starts to look really fierce and determined as he says that Blue Lock is exceptional, and that if they stick to their agreed upon 0-1 plan, then they won't evolve anymore either. With that, he alone moves past Karasu and starts to head forward alone. This seems to leave the England players really in shock, and it also seems to make Fox pretty mad. Karasu, on the other hand, sounds annoyed. He explains that Egi used everyone else as bait to make his own play. However, just as he is running forward, we see the goat Kiyora coming by, and he slide tackles the ball away right from Agi's legs. He looks super dope while telling Agi that his ego is the match's borderline, and I always love when Kiyora is talking about his borderline stuff. He continues as he then tells Agi straight up that his ego's sticking out. This doesn't just help Kiyora, but it also seems like something clicked for Isagi, as with his metavision eyes out, he thinks that he can see the ego. The ball then goes to Aiku, who compliments Kiyora before starting to smile, and says that England should get a good look at Blue Lock's infinity. We then see him getting closer to the ball and going to send it away. I have seen some people thinking that he is shooting at the goal, but personally I don't believe it. I instead believes that he is setting up someone else. Anyway, under Aiku, we have Isagi, who looks maniacally while having his puzzle pieces going completely insane, as he says that he can devour him, and I'm guessing that he is talking about Agi right here. But is it just me, or was this chapter like extremely good? Like, I know that just 2 chapters ago I said that it was an amazing chapter, but this chapter was honestly on a whole other level, as it had everything, and I really loved it. Anyway, before getting ahead of myself, I can tell you guys that there doesn't seem to be a break week, and the next chapter should be called Heaven Piercing Bullet, which sounds extremely cool. But back to this amazing chapter, we get confirmation that Fox was Ego's former coach. We also saw Blue Lock just going absolutely wild, with Yukimiya having an insane new power-up and being a dribbling beast, not to mention Zantetsu, who actually got a shot on the goal. Sadly, it got saved, but still that was sick. Lastly, we saw Agi having a bit of ego, which made me so happy, because if he would have been egoless like Teddy, then personally I would have been a bit bored of the England team, so that made me super happy. Not to mention Kiyora, who was the goat and slide tackled away the ball. And lastly, Aiku and Isagi, where both of them looked super fired up. Like, I can't say enough good things about how I thought that this chapter was, but it was a masterpiece, a clear 10 out of 10 chapter for me. But please let me know your rating of this chapter down in the comments, and also what your favorite moment in this chapter was, as I, like always, would love to read them. Anyway, if you like Blue Lock and videos like this, then I would highly suggest you subscribe to this channel, and while you are at it, leave a comment and a like. Also, if you can, hype the video down below, as it helps out with the algorithm a ton. And if you are curious to see another video of mine, then please watch the video that will be popping up on the screen now. Anyway, thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.